Hey there, and welcome back to another episode with Raf King. Today, we're going over reflexology. So, reflexology. This is a beautiful modality that oftentimes centers around the feet, but it can also include the hands, and I want to say even ears, and I want to say there's even reflexology of the tongue. I've never gotten into that. Never really gotten into the ears either, and the hands I didn't focus on too much, although there is definitely a place for it. My training really revolved around the feet. Now, if you get involved with like a really talented reflexologist, I'm sure that they're going to be able to do it all. But in my training, it was oftentimes taught as kind of like a one-trick pony type of thing, or just a fancy foot massage, which I feel grossly oversimplifies what the practice is. Because there's a lot you can do with this, and so let's get into it. Let's start off with just a little bit of history before we get into it. So cultures as far back as like 2500 BC saw the importance of massaging the feet. So that's nothing new. But when you start to get into modern history, Eunice Ingham, she is known as the mother of reflexology. She really like quantified everything, right? I mean, she was able to do studies on it, and she was able to show that if I touch this part of the foot, we're going to get this reaction in the body. And that's where it gets its name from, reflexology, like a reflex, right? You could think about how, let's say you were to step on something sharp, right? Or something that's painful. Your body intrinsically, right, like instinctually reacts to that. You don't really have to think about, oh wow, my foot's hurting, I should lift it up. It's almost like touching something hot, right? Like that signal doesn't make it all the way up to your conscious brain before it moves back down to your hand to move it out of the way. And we're kind of working with that with that part of the body, the reflex aspect of it. And that's really what the practice revolves around, is as you touch a part of the foot, you have an effect on a very specific part of the body. And she was able to take notes over years and years and years of her practice. And this resulted in her being able to coin the term reflexology and form it into a modality. And I have to say, when I work with a really talented reflexologist, they can touch my feet and tell me what's going on in my body. And I think that's absolutely incredible. I do apologize for my dog, who constantly thinks that when it's video time, she has to drink as much water and eat as much food as possible. So just bear with me. She's adorable, so, we'll let it slide. And, there she is. Hi, you. Hi, what are you doing? No food right now. No, you just got dinner. I don't know why she thinks that she gets double dinners, but it's a terrible habit. Adi, go lay down, baby. I'm not going to feed you right now. No. So the practice itself, like I was saying, oftentimes revolves around the feet. And you could picture the feet like just kind of side by side like this. And the body is mirrored on the feet. Not just the bottom of the feet, but you got the sides and the top of the feet as well. But basically, if you were to take a picture of your actual body, put it on the feet right there, you would be able to map out where to go. It's actually a very simple process, right? Like if you know your anatomy pretty well, getting into reflexology is very simple to do, right? Think about even like how the arch of the foot, right? It mirrors the spine in a lot of ways. It mirrors that kyphotic and lordotic curve as it curves around. And of course, it's that arch of the foot that is the reflex of the spine, and it matches up really, really well. I think it just really speaks to the sophistication of the body, how it's designed, and how it mirrors itself in a lot of ways. And man, when I first got into reflexology, I kind of thought it was like a little weird and crazy, right? Like you're talking about, if I push on this part of the foot, I'm going to have a positive effect on this part of the body. Like that seems ridiculous, right? Like why would that work at all? But there are studies out there that show how effective this modality can be. In some cases, way more effective than what you would think, right? Like, and I wish I could find these, because when I was teaching reflexology, and it was more of like an intro to reflexology, I should clarify. But when I was teaching reflexology, I would actually, like, for each system of the body, find studies that were done on it, so I could bring a certain amount of validation to it. Because again, like as a new student to body work, and we taught this in the first quarter, you're kind of thinking like, what did I get myself into? Like all these people are nuts, right? But there are studies out there that show that there can be a positive effect, and sometimes a profoundly positive effect. In fact, there was one study I remember where they were doing tractioning on the neck to relieve neck pain, right? And this is just simply like pulling on the head, right? But if you work the reflex of the neck on the foot, they showed that it had an even more positive rate of helping out people, which just blew my mind, right? Like massaging the feet can help out the neck. And I think that's pretty amazing. But at the same time, like our nervous system is incredibly complex. And not just that, but in later videos, we're going to get into Thomas Myers' anatomy trains. And the anatomy trains are essentially the fascia around the body and how they all connect together, how all this different fascia connects together to form you and to form support systems. And one thing that I always found that was fascinating was how the bottom of your foot is connected to the front of your head right here, right? Like the plantar fascia moves up the calcaneal tendon through the gastrocnemius to the hamstrings to the glutes, right? It's something we're all going to go over. But when you start looking at the different aspects of the feet, in fact, I want to say that, and don't quote me on this, right? This is something that I have to go over in later videos, but like 5 out of the 7 major fascial planes of the body start and end at the feet, right? So like if you can positively affect what's going on there, like you could basically do a full body massage throughout the rest of the body. And I think this is just fascinating. Like this is incredible. It's not just a fancy foot massage, right? Oftentimes we try to think of it that way. Like when I was being taught it, I remember one of the TAs had told me that it was just it was like basket weaving. Like it's not that hard. But I think if you take the mindfulness out of it and you simplify it in that way, then you lose a little bit of the magic in it. It's still going to work, but I think intention plays a huge role in body work, and I think that intention can really take you to the next level. And so the techniques in the reflexology class are actually very, very different than what you see in other modalities, right? Like in Swedish massage, we talked about a lot of gliding. Basically, in any massage that we've talked about, there's a lot of gliding that's happening. And in reflexology, there's really not that much gliding. In fact, there's a lot of like inchworm type of techniques, right? So it's kind of like this little movement that you're doing. And as you like inch away throughout the foot, you really can get a lot deeper, and you can make a lot of coverage across the foot while being very detailed with it. Of course, there's different techniques of like stretching out the foot, moving it this way and that way. One of my favorite ones that I use in pretty much any session is to flop the foot back and forth, and this is like incredibly relaxing. It doesn't look relaxing, it doesn't sound relaxing, but when it's done on you, it's incredible how much it can like really ease the whole nervous system throughout the whole body, right? But it's one of those things that we overlook a lot of the time. Like a lot of people don't take reflexology seriously. In fact, I want to say Eunice Ingham's mentor, who was getting into zone therapy, right? This is kind of like the precursor to what we know as reflexology, and zone therapy being like one part of the body connects to another, like your elbow and your knee are connected, right? And so if you were to stimulate the elbow in a certain way, you could get knee pain relief. And although that he did show that there was some evidence that it did work and even use it in very practical senses, a large part of the medical community, because they couldn't prove how it worked, just wrote it off, which I mean, like, I can't blame them, right? Like, if you can't explain how it works, then it's very easy to question. If you can't explain the mechanisms behind it, then oftentimes you're going to just write it off because why wouldn't you, right? That's just logical thinking. But in a lot of ways, I think that we're evolving so much and our technology is growing so much that at some point we're going to be able to explain just exactly how this happens. And again, my theories are through the nervous system, through the fascial systems, that something like this is possible because, well, why wouldn't it be? Like, we're human and we're amazing like that. And it's one of those things that after enough time, after enough studies, after enough people have gone through it and shown that they're affected by it, that you kind of have to start to pay attention. Now, for me, in my experience with reflexology, I mean, a really talented reflexologist has been able to touch my foot and tell me exactly where my back pain is at. Tell me exactly what like organ issues that I'm having. And we didn't have like a really like long intake or anything like that. So there's no reason that they should know that. They don't even know me. So like why would that happen? So although it's not something that I like strictly focus on, and here's why I don't strictly focus on it. For a couple of reasons. One, I really like working with the rest of the body. We're going to go over trigger point here pretty soon, and I really love to get onto trigger points because now that is something that it's just like, that's hard science, right? There's no one that's going to question the work of trigger point work. It's not going to happen. But another thing with reflexology is it's a lot of hand work. Like, I really like to get my elbows into the body and my forearms. It takes pressure off of my hands, and I still can work really detailed with it. There's a lot of people who think that you lose detail as you're working with your elbows and forearms, but I think those people just need to work a little bit harder at their technique. I practice the basics over and over again, and I think that if you can't do a full body massage with just your forearms and elbows, then you should reevaluate. And not to say that you're bad at what you do, but you could be so much better if you practice certain fundamentals and certain aspects of massage. So for me, there's not really a lot of room in reflexology to use elbows. It's just not there. You're using a lot of thumbs a lot of the time. And that's just something that I don't like to focus on. Like, I know people who do reflexology sessions all day, every day. And that's what they do. And their hands are all gnarled up and everything like that. And for me, I would rather work in a different way. I'm not saying that those people are wrong for doing that. And if their hands can take it, awesome, wonderful. I'm very happy for them. But for me, I have to focus on something else. I can include it in the session, but it's not something I'm going to solely focus on for, 30 minutes to an hour. And that's not to say that I don't do those sessions. Like, I've done hour-long reflexology sessions. Like, if it's requested, I'm going to do it, but it's just not something that I put my name to all the time. And I suggest that for most massage therapists. I had mentioned before to be able to work with the hands, and that's a beautiful thing because, well, for two reasons, right? What if their feet are super sensitive? Like, there are some people, like, you just look at their feet and they're already ticklish, right? Because they're just so sensitive. Like, and if you can't access the rest of the body or their feet, well, the hands are a perfect substitute. And the other thing is, what if they don't have feet? And I mean this in a serious sense, that, I used to work with a lot of veterans, and obviously those people go through a lot, and they have the potential to come home missing limbs. And this is something that, like, they obviously deserve help. They obviously deserve love. And reflexology can really help them out, along with other modalities of massage. But it's in cases like that you have to get kind of inventive. You have to get creative. You have to think back into your toolbox to be able to serve them at your utmost potential. And just kind of writing off reflexology for that reason, I don't think is appropriate, because there are people out there that need you to adapt to them. And I've said in other videos that this is the reason why I don't solely focus on one modality. And I believe the metaphor I used before was, if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Like, for me, I really like to be able to adapt, and I like to be able to change my style and change my approach. And if something isn't working as I move head on, well, we need to work around it, right? We need to be able to change how we're operating to be able to serve that person. Because that's what massage therapy is, regardless of the modality, regardless of the style. Like, you are there to serve somebody, and it's humbling work. Because there are so many times where you get up to the table and you want to do what you do. And there are a lot of massage therapists that I know that aren't flexible in that mindset. In fact, one of my mentors, and I love him dearly, he taught me Russian massage, and I've talked about him before. He's amazing at what he does. But he totally refuses to touch feet, which is insane to me. Like, everything about this guy is so cool, but he will not touch somebody's feet because he thinks it's gross or something like that. And to me, that's, like, first off, the human body isn't gross. There might be conditions that you don't want to work in, but there's no part of the body that's intrinsically gross. You're not gross, right? You're a beautiful human being. and your feet aren't gross, right? Like, sure, you might have something that you need to work on, right? Like in massage school, we talk about proper hygiene going into a session, and if you don't have proper hygiene, then you might be putting yourself at risk for, like as we rub dirt further into the body. Like, obviously, that needs to be addressed. However, when we're dealing with people, like just to think about feet in general and not want to work them, I find unacceptable. Like I think he should have taken a couple more reflex classes just to appreciate the work and appreciate the flow of it all, because he's brilliant. And I digress. The human body is an amazing thing. You should have different tools to be able to access it. And reflexology should be one of those tools that you use, even if it's in the sense that, like, what if you get somebody on the table that isn't comfortable with massage, right? Like I've worked with plenty of people who, like their spouse got them a massage for their birthday, and they're like, I'm just here because my wife told me to, right? Like I don't like to be touched, type of thing. That person probably isn't going to want to disrobe either. And I mean, there are people out there who have had horrific things happen to them, and they deserve to be loved. They deserve touch. I'm sorry, guys. I get a little emotional about this part. They deserve to be loved, and they deserve touch. And sometimes, they're going to leave their clothes on. Like, I've worked with plenty of people like that who were initially really intimidated because I was a man working on them, and their trauma comes from men. So in that case, like, I have to be able to switch up my style. If all I do is, disrobed Swedish massage or Russian, then it's going to be hard for me to adapt to that. But if I can just work on their hands, just work on their feet, right, very non-invasive, then maybe we can make progress. And not just in the function of the body type of sense, right? Not just having them feeling better physically, but mentally as well. Like when you build that trust with somebody, that's like such an important thing, especially for people nowadays. Like it seems like so much is happening in the world, and our instinct is to lash out against everybody because we're all in survival mode, right? We're all in this kind of like scarcity mindset, and it's natural to feel scared when all of this is happening. Something we're going to talk about more in our next video, in regards to the client staying clothed, right? Like I learned a lot of techniques from shiatsu. We're going to talk about this in the next video. And in shiatsu, it was really easy to work with somebody with their clothes on. That's how the style is taught, right? You don't disrobe for it. At least I should say how I learned it. We learned everything fully clothed, right? Obviously, modalities from the East can vary in great ways. But for me, being able to work with somebody in their comfort zone and build trust with them and get them feeling better is a privilege. It's the best thing you could do for somebody, to work with them, work with what they can do. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm sorry I got a bit emotional in this video, but like I said, there's so much going on in the world right now, and really even in my own life, there's a lot of growth that's happening. I don't mean to get too personal with you, but there's like this big meditation that I did just this last weekend, and I mean like really hardcore meditation. Like it wasn't just like sitting down for like an hour or something like that. Like I meditated literally all night. Like I started at 6 and ended at like 2 a.m. type of thing. Like I meditated my butt off. And when I was in that zone, I realized so much about my life and a lot of trauma that had been kind of like hiding away and like disguising itself as confidence in some manner. And for me, like I'm constantly becoming a better massage therapist. And this was part of it for me. Was I was feeling really stagnant in my life. To be honest with you, like crazy heartbroken right now. And what I learned was I've kind of been on a destructive pattern with myself, and haven't really learned to fully love a person, even though like what I do as a massage therapist, even like how I'm constantly serving people. There was a part of me that like began to understand that love has to be given freely, and it has to be given without expectations. And it's one of those things where to fully love and embrace somebody, you have to love that person where they're at, and you have to come from a place that is of respect for that person. And I don't know how I got into this part of the video that's supposed to be centered around reflexology, but I think the point I'm trying to make is if I can in any way influence you to look at how you're loving the people around you, whether it's your friends or a significant other, I invite you to really reflect on that. Really reflect on how you're treating those close people around, and just even strangers around you. Like how do you love in your life, and how are you portraying yourself when it comes to others, and how are you supporting them? Because right now is the time to be supporting others. Like, even though we're all scared and we're all realizing maybe we're not as cool as we thought we were, you're going to be way cooler when you fully support somebody else, and you fully support the people that are around you that seemingly accept you for who you are, and maybe you should accept them. But if you want to talk on a more personal basis about something like this, I do invite you to reach out to me. The website, the email, the phone number are all on the screen for you right now. Please reach out to me. I want to talk to you because you are loved, and you are an amazing person, right? And of course, amazing people, they buy my book. So check that out sometime. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next video, and hopefully I get to talk to you, and heck, maybe I even get to see you in person for a massage. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for everything, really. I'll see you in the next video. Y'all take care now.